Marina Liadova is a music teacher at Brim Hall School. She moved here from Russia in 1990. We've known her since kindergarten, but we wanted to get to know her immigration story better.
How are you connected to our Brim Hall community?
I am a music teacher here and I have kindergarten through 6th grade.
What part of Russia are you from?
I am from Moscow, which is the capital of Russia, and it used to be a country called Soviet Union, and now it's called Russian Federation, but it's still, the capital is still in Moscow, and I lived in the heart of the city, and it's just, actually it's almost as big, I think it's even bigger than New York, maybe not, but it's just a huge metropolitan city.
What was your childhood like?
Well, I had a happy childhood, and the only thing was that I had to practice music since I was 5 years old. Back in the old country, if you showed any aptitude for sports or music, especially for sports and music, or like ballet, they would put you, the parents would put you in a special school. I still lived at home, but I had to go to music school after my regular school 3 times a week, and then I had to practice piano every day for at least an hour. And so I always felt like I missed out on some of the regular silly children stuff because I had to study so hard. And an interesting thing, when I was in 8th grade, a little bit older than you were, if you study music since you were young and you go to that special music school, then at 14, when you're in 8th grade, you can go to a music college already. So I never actually went to high school. I went to that music college, and so when kids graduate from high school, they're 17 or 18, they go to college. I finished college when I was 18, and I started working right away at that same musical school that I went to. So again, that college, it's sort of like I feel like I never went to high school. I missed that whole part of life because the life was so very difficult financially and in many other ways in Soviet Union, that parents wanted to make sure that you had a chance on a good career. And that's what I had. I had a chance on a good career.
Did that count as like high school and college?
Yes, high school and the beginning, that college, yes.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get interested in music?
I was singing perfectly in tune when I was 2, and so my parents still have recordings of me singing these complicated songs in tune when I was 2, and so they connected to some musicians, and the music teachers listened to me and said that I have to, they recommended to my parents that I had to study music at a very early age.
What was your first job?
The first job was like when I finished that college when I was 18. They hired me to teach at the same school that I went to 3 times a week. So, and I was almost 18, and I felt like I wasn't ready for a full-time job, but there was such a good thing because again, life was difficult. It was hard to get a good job like that. So I took the job, and at the same time I started graduate school. So I worked full-time job, and I went to graduate school for more music studies because eventually it would pay better.
Wait, if it was full-time, would you do it during the night?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and nights and weekends. It was crazy.
Did you get a lot of sleep?
Not a lot, but I tried, yes. It was, I don't know how I did that, but I guess when you're young, you can do a lot of strange things, right?
How were you affected by it?
Honestly, I have to be honest in this interview, right? I never had any life, which means I didn't have a boyfriend until I was 24. So because you study and you study and you work and you work. And at that music school, they were mostly ladies, so I didn't know how to date at all.
Did you like your job?
You have all these perfect questions. Not really. You know why? Because I always wanted to do theater. And that was just teaching music theory and just about, not even the singing music, it was music theory, all about the rules, music rules, and how to write music. So I always wanted to do the theater. So I started at that school where I started the kids' music theater company, so I could do what I liked. That was my way of dealing with that.
Do you wish there was theater at Brim Hall?
I do, yes. I absolutely do. I do. Yes.
Or what they used to do it though. They used to do
in
the little
sixth grade.
plays.
Right, and yeah, I wish we could. Yes.
How old were you when you came to the U.S.?
I was 30 years old, 30, and I already had a husband and an 8-month-old baby when I came, so that was tough.
Which of your family members, if any, immigrated with you?
So it was, my husband got a job here, that's how we came, and Boris, my son, he was 8 months old, and 10 or 15 years later, my parents followed me, but not right away.
How did moving affect your family?
It's a beautiful question. It was the end of 1990, and back then, leaving Soviet Union was like you were living forever. I didn't think I would see my parents again because of the political situation in former Soviet Union. Getting in and out of the country was very, very difficult. And it was a communist closed country. And even though we were living, because my husband got a job here, we were not living as refugees, but still I didn't think I would ever come back or I would see my parents again. So that was very emotionally difficult.
How did you learn English?
In Europe, and Russia was considered part of the Europe then, we learned the British English. So starting in 4th grade, we had English class 2 or 3 times a week in regular school, in elementary school, but it was all the British language, British pronunciation, so it was very, very difficult to understand when I came here and people spoke a different English. They spoke American English. So I remember very well that people, and we learned mostly to read, so I didn't really learn how to speak freely. So that was an interesting experience, coming in with being used to British pronunciation.
Did you originally move to Minnesota? If not, where?
No, we came to Minnesota because my husband was hired to work at the physics department at the University of Minnesota, but my first job was in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, 2 hours from here. So my son and I, we moved to Eau Claire, and we were commuting every weekend because it was a very good job.
Did you ever feel lonely or not included?
Oh, that's another perfect question. I always believe that if you want to be included, you work on it. If you want people to accept you, you make fun of yourself and allow people, open up, allow people to be humorous about your difference, to be humorous about your accent. I was asking a lot of questions about this and this and this and that. I moved from a big city of Moscow to a relatively small city of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, that didn't know a lot of immigrants. They didn't have a lot of immigrants. So I had to consciously make decisions to not be lonely or excluded. I had to make those decisions. I believe that in some way, we have control over those things. It's the way you position yourself with people.
Was it hard to make friends?
That was difficult because not maybe because I was an immigrant, because I was an adult, and I was in my 30s, and by then I was a single mother, and the life was very difficult in that regard. Yes, I guess I'd say yes, it was difficult, yes.
Have you gone back to Russia?
I have a couple of times, but it is very, very expensive, and like super expensive. And the other thing is that my parents are here, my brother is here, and I only have a couple of friends back there. Actually, they came to visit me here, so I don't feel necessarily like I need to go back because I made my life here. My work is here, what I like to do. I made new friends, and my son grew up here, so I don't necessarily. Other people who I know of, people like some of my friends go all the time, but I do not. I don't feel the emotional need anymore.
When you went to Russia, did it feel different?
Oh, it was a different country, because right after we came, there was a coup, and Soviet Union wasn't anymore, and it was the Russian Federation. Lots of political changes, lots of turmoil. In many ways, Russian people wanted to be like people, live like people in the West, which we were not able to do in Soviet Union. So a lot of things were borrowed from American life. So now there are no shortages of food. Now there are plenty of access to good things. You of course have to have money and you have to work. A lot of problems too, but it's a different country now. Yes, it's a lot different when I went.
Thank you for interviewing us.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. You have all those perfect questions. I hope I was able to answer them to your
You did really good.
benefit. Thank you. Thank you.